Are you afraid?
I'd been looking forward to this hike all week. Old Man's Path was one of my favorites. A challenging but beautiful 6-mile loop that offered incredible views from the summit. I knew the trail like the back of my hand, or so I thought. This particular Saturday, I'd gotten a late start. The crisp autumn air was invigorating, and I just kept pushing, lost in the rhythm of my steps. Before I knew it, the sun was sinking fast. I checked my watch, annoyance flaring. I was at least 2 miles from the trailhead, and it would be completely dark soon. I picked up my pace, feeling the first bite of the evening chill in the air. That's when I saw it. A path I didn't recognize. It wasn't on any map I'd ever seen, nor had I noticed it in all my previous trips. It was just a barely there cut in the trees, almost swallowed by ferns and fallen leaves. Logic told me to ignore it, to stick to the familiar route. But a strange curiosity, perhaps fueled by the encroaching twilight, pulled at me. It looked like a shortcut. I hesitated for a moment, then veered off the main path. Just a quick look, I muttered to myself. The new trail was immediately steeper and more rugged than Old Man's Path. The trees grew closer, their branches intertwining overhead, creating a dim, tunnel-like effect, even as dusk transitioned into true twilight. The air grew colder, and a profound silence settled around me, broken only by the crunch of my boots on dead leaves. No birds, no wind rustling the branches, nothing. It was unsettling. I pulled out my phone, but predictably, there was no signal. My flashlight was in my pack, which suddenly felt like a heavy burden. The path continued to climb, winding inexplicably upwards. This wasn't leading back to the trailhead. I was certain of it now. A sense of unease began to curdle into genuine alarm. I felt an irrational fear that I was not just lost, but had somehow stumbled into a place that shouldn't exist. Then, as abruptly as it began, the path opened into a small, strangely flat clearing. It was circular, almost perfectly so, ringed by ancient moss-covered boulders that seemed too large, too smooth, to be natural. And in the center, something completely out of place. It was a standing stone, immense and rectangular, easily 10 feet tall and 5 feet wide. It looked like a door or a gate, carved directly into the bedrock itself, yet it clearly wasn't. There were no seams, no hinges, no way to open it. It was simply a solid, unyielding slab of stone, perfectly smooth on its face. I circled it cautiously, my breath misting in the cold air. The stone was cool to the touch, almost unnaturally so. It was entirely featureless, a blank slate of ancient rock. It felt less like something built and more like something that had always been there, an anomaly in the landscape. My hand traced a faint, almost imperceptible groove near the bottom. It wasn't a crack, but more like a weathered seam. As I watched, the faintest hint of an outline seemed to shimmer, as if the entire stone was breathing, subtly expanding and contracting. A trick of the fading light, I told myself. The irrational part of my brain screamed at me to run, to get back to the familiar path, but the stone door held me, fascinated and terrified in equal measure. I felt a growing sense of dread, a chilling certainty that I was not alone in this isolated clearing. A sound, or more accurately the absence of a sound, made me freeze. The crunch of dry leaves, the snapping of a twig, something too heavy to be a deer. It was close. I spun around, my heart hammering against my ribs, eyes straining into the deep shadows. There, among the trees, something massive. It was a shape, indistinct in the near-total darkness, but undeniably there. It was immense, broad and slow-moving, like a boulder dislodged and rolling. It didn't seem to have walked into the clearing. It seemed to emerge from the very rock. I could make out its form now, human-like but grotesquely so. Its skin appeared to be rough, gray stone, fissured and ancient. Its limbs were thick and heavy, moving with a ponderous, unnatural slowness. It was impossibly huge, easily 8 feet tall, maybe more. Its face was the worst part. A flat, unyielding slab of stone, with no discernible nose or mouth. Just two deeply recessed, shadowed hollows where eyes should be. They weren't eyes, not really. They were like holes in the rock, catching no light, just merging into the deep shadows behind them. Bottomless darkness. It took a slow, heavy step forward. The ground trembled faintly. It was looking at the stone door, not at me, which somehow made it worse. It didn't seem to notice my presence, or perhaps didn't care. Its focus was entirely on the immense stone slab. It reached out a hand, thick and heavy as a carved rock, and placed it flat against the surface of the door. And as its hand made contact, the impossible happened. The faint shimmer I had seen earlier intensified. The stone door rippled. The massive slab of stone didn't swing open. It began to slide inwards and downwards, sinking silently into the earth itself. Behind it, not an interior, but a void of absolute darkness. A black so profound it seemed to absorb the starlight. The air grew even colder, a grave-like chill emanating from the opening. The stone figure turned, its back now to me, and stepped into the darkness. It moved with a slow, deliberate cadence, its massive bulk disappearing, absorbed by the profound blackness. The opening didn't glow, didn't reflect. It simply swallowed the light. As the last of the figure vanished, the stone door began to move again, sliding upwards and outwards, slowly, silently. It was as if the mountain was swallowing itself. In moments, the door was gone, reintegrated into the bedrock, leaving behind a perfectly blank, unblemished surface. It was as if it had never been there at all. I stood there for a long time, shivering, my mind struggling to process what I had witnessed. The cold was unbearable, the silence absolute. There was no trace of the door, no sign of the immense figure, just the ring of ancient boulders and the deep, dark woods. Somehow, I found my way back to Old Man's Path. I ran the rest of the way, driven by a primal terror, not stopping until I saw the distant glow of the trailhead lights. I never told anyone what I saw, not really. How could I? Who would believe me? I've gone back to Old Man's Path many times since, always sticking to the main trail. I've looked for that shortcut, that small clearing, that impossible stone door. But it's never there. The maps show nothing but unbroken wilderness in that section. It's as if that part of the mountain simply isn't. But sometimes, when the light is just right, I swear I can see a faint, almost imperceptible shimmer in the rock faces, like an outline of something that was briefly unmade, only to reform, waiting for another late hiker to take the wrong turn.